Chapter 1. Who is speaking? Hi. Good evening. Or good morning. I honestly do not know. You are everywhere, so somebody out there is having breakfast right now, and somebody else is driving home in the dark. Either way, I am glad you are here. My name is Caroline Jemima Adler. I am 19 years old. I am American, and I am from Washington, D.C. And what you are about to hear is not my article about somebody else. It is the piece I wrote, published under my own name on the 30th of July, and I am going to read it to you exactly as it stands. Nothing added, nothing softened. So let me tell you who is reading it, and then I will get out of the way. I am on the public affairs team at GeoStrat Agency, LLC, in Washington, D.C. I read International Relations and Political Science at the Edmund A. Walsh School of Foreign Service, Georgetown University. I started at 18 and a half. I work pro bono, unpaid. Same as everyone in this house. Yael R. Eastman, too. Nobody here is paid. Not one of us. I am the youngest on the team, the freshman, and proud of it. I read the press for this house and I answer it. I edit. And when there is any time left, which there mostly is not, I mix deep and melodic house music under the GeoStrat Agency LLC brand. That last part is not a footnote, so let me say it properly. I run our Spotify channel. The playlist is called The Silent War, version 3. It runs 199 tracks. I built it for my mentor and principal, Pascal, and for Coco. If you are young, or if you know somebody young who thinks none of this has anything to do with them, send them the playlist. That is how you get somebody in the door. Now, a word about this house and about where it sits. The question comes up constantly, and the answer is much simpler than people want it to be. GeoStrat Agency, LLC, 1500 K Street Northwest, Washington, D.C., 20005, a private geostrategic intelligence and publishing unit, nonprofit, nonpartisan, not a non-governmental organization, small, humble, funded entirely out of the private resources of Pascal Najati, no donors, no paid subscriptions, no advertisers, no political masters, none. And yes, the address. A casual walk to the White House, 5 minutes on foot, straight across Lafayette Square, close by the Washington office of the Director of National Intelligence, the Department of Energy, and the office of our hero, Secretary of State Marco Rubio. Now hear me carefully, because this next line decides everything. It is proximity, it is not access. We walk the same streets, we do not walk through those doors. Everything we publish comes from open sources, dated documents, and the public register. Nothing else, ever. We solicit no clients, we sell no advice, we grant no interviews. And while we are here, let us say the other part out loud, because Pascal and I both believe it, and neither of us sees any reason to be coy about it. We are convinced, absolutely convinced, that Secretary of State Marco Rubio will carry the torch, the common sense and the astute doctrine of his boss, President Trump, America first, peace through strength, beyond 2028, and into the next decade of this young millennium. That is our position. It is declared. You now know exactly where we stand, and you get to judge everything that follows, knowing it. That is how it should work. Now, a word for you. This article went viral, within hours, clicks from all over the world. Roughly 70% of our readership and our subscribers are in the United States of America, and the rest of you are everywhere. Geneva, Paris, Brussels, Lausanne, Montreal, Francophone Africa. Thank you. Sincerely, from this entire house, and I want to say something about that number because it matters more to me than it probably should. Nobody in this house is famous. No network behind us, no press office, no budget. What we have is a record, dated and signed, and a founder who has spent 40 years reading the map before other people do. You found it anyway. That is the whole argument for doing this at all. And now the disclosure, because this house publishes nothing without it. This recording is me, my voice, recorded in segments, at a desk in Washington, D.C. No studio, no engineer, no budget, pro bono. AI-assisted audiobook editing is used only to level the takes and smooth the joins between segments, never to write, never. So you may hear a breath, a page turning, the level shifting when I lean back in my chair, a seam between two segments recorded at different distances from the microphone. That is what it sounds like when a real person reads a real text with no budget and no team. We prefer it that way. Frankly, so should you. And one last thing so you know what you are listening to. This is a birthday piece. On the 1st of August, the Swiss Confederation turned 735 years old. That is the occasion. It is not the subject. The subject is door. What is it? There are 3 of them in this story, and they are the spine of the whole thing. So listen for them. The first is in Philadelphia. A wooden door on Chestnut Street that 39 men shut in a July heatwave, in wool, with the windows down. Because you cannot commit treason against an empire with a crowd at the window, they shut it on purpose. And then they opened it on purpose. That second half is the part that is American. The second door is in Tehran, chained in November of 1979, with 52 Americans behind it. It has not opened since, 47 years. And the third door is the one almost nobody knows about, which is why I wrote this. For 46 years, there has been exactly one official line between Washington and Tehran, and it does not run through an American. It runs through a Swiss diplomat. It held this year under live fire, and in June it produced a table on a mountain in a canton whose name is on a sheet of parchment from 1291. 3 doors, one closed to protect an argument, one chained shut, and one that a very small country has quietly held the key to for nearly half a century. That is the story. Here is how it goes. One more thing before I start. There is a song at the end. Pascal Najati chose it for you himself. He likes to move his signals through film and through music, and after a year of watching him do it, I would not have him do it any other way. When we get there, I will hand off to it, and you will hear why. All right, here is the story. Chapter 2. The Sister Republic. Title: Declassified. The smaller yet strong sister republic at 735. On the 1st of August 2026, on the Swiss National Day. Subtitle: Bern has held the only open line to Tehran for 46 years, and in June it built the table at the Bergenstock in a canton of 1291. By Caroline Jemima Adler, written on behalf of the founder and principal, Pascal Najati, Washington, D.C., the 30th of July, 2026. And here is the first image. First image, a photograph from a few weeks back, right before the 250th Independence Day. A young woman caught mid-swing, the iron already up and over, the rotation finished, the shoulders through, the hips open, the weight gone onto the front foot. The eyes are not on the ball, the eyes are out past the frame, tracking something that left a second ago. Behind her, Maryland. A low sky, loaded in gray, one of those warm, heavy weekend afternoons where the light presses down flat on the fairway and the air does not move. And across the whole image, orange, wide awake, the GeoStrat Agency LLC globe and pin device, on watch. That is me, out with my parents. She hits the iron, straight and long, never the woods. Precision and force in one swing. The woods are for show, the woods are for the dudes. Copyright 2026, GeoStrat Agency LLC. The honor and who asked for it. Our founder and principal, my mentor, Pascal Najati, gave me the honor of writing this on his behalf and on behalf of his beloved Coco. They are thousands of miles from Washington, D.C., taking time off they have earned many times over. So let me state plainly what this is. This is about his native nation. This is about his beloved Switzerland. On the 1st of August, the Swiss Confederation turned 735 years old. Since 1291, a charter that changed everything. And not only for the Swiss. 1291, 3 names on one sheet of parchment. Washington, D.C. At the beginning of August 1291, 3 valley communities put their names to a parchment: Uri, Schwyz, Unterwalden. The federal charter. They swore mutual defense, common courts, and no foreign judge over free men. Written in Latin, on one sheet, by farmers. 735 years later, that sheet still sits in Schwyz, and the confederation it founded is still standing. No civil war since 1847, no occupation, no revolution imposed from outside that lasted. And here is the detail that tells you everything about the Swiss. The 1st of August was not celebrated as a national day until 1891, the 600th anniversary, and it did not become a paid federal public holiday until the Swiss people voted for it, in 1993, in force from 1994. The Swiss voted on whether to have a national holiday. That is the country in one fact. The sister republic, who borrowed from whom in 1787 and 1848. There is a story that America borrowed its constitution from Switzerland. The truth runs the other way, and the truth is better. Philadelphia did study the old Swiss leagues. James Madison examined the Helvetic Confederacy in Federalist No. 19 and found it wanting. No common treasury, no common troops, no common coin, no common judicature. A league held together by mountains, not by law. The founders learned from Switzerland what not to build. Then Switzerland did the borrowing. The Federal Constitution of the 12th of September 1848 took the American design, a federal state in place of a league of sovereign cantons, and a bicameral assembly on the American model. The National Council for the People, the Council of States for the cantons, 2 per canton, exactly as Philadelphia had built it. Swiss historians of the period called the United States the identical sister republic. They meant it. One thing Bern refused to copy: the single executive. Those liberals had watched Napoleon dissolve their country. They would not put executive power in one pair of hands, so they built a collegial 7 and a presidency that rotates every year and commands nothing, primus inter pares. Then Switzerland added what America has never adopted: the referendum in the total revision of 1874, the popular initiative in 1891. The right of a people to strike down a law their own parliament has just passed. That is the Swiss completion of the American idea, and it is the only working direct democracy of its kind on Earth. The oldest door in America. Pascal and I have talked about doors for weeks, not the metaphor, the mechanism. And here is what we kept coming back to. A thing that looks like a disaster at first glance is very often the ground being cleared. It happens to nations. It happens inside families. The wall comes down, and you find out what was load-bearing and what was decoration. What survives the adversity is the good part, and it survives because it was tested. What follows is not a return to the old arrangement. It is a level playing field, laid straighter than the one before it, by people who now know exactly why it matters. That is the pattern. A door does not open because the room was comfortable. A door opens because something broke. So I am going to use his argument, because it is his, and because it fits the 1st of August better than anything I could build myself. Go to Chestnut Street in Philadelphia, stand in front of the red brick building that used to be the Pennsylvania State House. Everyone photographs the tower. Almost nobody looks at the doors. Look at the doors. In the summer of 1776, the Second Continental Congress kept them shut. Shut. In a Philadelphia July, in wool, windows down, men deciding whether to commit treason against the greatest empire on earth need a room without an audience. On the 2nd of July, they voted for independence. On the 4th of July, they adopted the text. On the 8th of July, they read it aloud to the people in the yard outside. 11 years later, the same room. Doors closed again, sentries posted, secrecy sworn. From May to September 1787, while 39 men argued a constitution into existence. That is the American door, and that is why it is the one. Not a door freedom was carried through by a mob. A door deliberately closed so free men could argue without a crowd at the window. Then opened on purpose, so that what they had built could walk out into daylight and be judged. The whole republic in one hinge, deliberation behind the door, accountability in front of it. Every tyranny in history has managed the first half. The second half is American, and there is the part most people have forgotten. In June 1783, unpaid Continental soldiers surrounded that state house. Pennsylvania declined to call out the militia. The Congress of the United States had to get up and leave town, Princeton, then elsewhere. That humiliation is why Article 1, Section 8 gives Congress the power to establish a federal district. Not for the scenery, a seat of government that no single state could ever again besiege, hold hostage, or shrug at. Under the Residence Act of July 1790, Philadelphia held the government for 10 years, while the district on the Potomac was surveyed and built. Washington took his second oath at Congress Hall in 1793. Adams took his in 1797. People call this district a swamp. We work in it. We are not sentimental about it. But the reason it exists is not corruption. It exists because free institutions must sit on ground that answers to everyone and belongs to no faction. When today's occupants forget that, they are not defending the founders' intent. They are reenacting June 1783, the door that was chained, and who held the key for 46 years. Now, the other door. The 4th of November, 1979. The gates of the United States Embassy compound in Tehran, overrun and chained. 52 Americans held for 444 days. In April 1980, a rescue attempt died in the sand at Desert One, and 8 American servicemen died with it. The hostages came home on the 20th of January 1981. Minutes after Ronald Reagan took the oath, history wrote its own editorial that day, and it needed no help from us. Washington has had no embassy in Tehran since, 47 years. And here is the fact that belongs in every Swiss National Day speech this weekend, and will be in almost none of them. Since the 21st of May, 1980, the protecting power of the United States of America in the Islamic Republic of Iran has been Switzerland. I am going to say that again, because few people know it, and because everything, absolutely everything, follows from it. Since the 21st of May, 1980, the protecting power of the United States of America in the Islamic Republic of Iran has been Switzerland. Not a gesture, a mandate. The Swiss embassy in Tehran carries American consular affairs and transmits official messages between two governments that do not speak to each other. For 46 years, through every crisis, the only official line between Washington and Tehran has run through a Swiss diplomat, and it held this year. Under fire. The war opened on the 28th of February 2026. Bern temporarily closed its Tehran embassy on the 11th of March 2026 and brought its ambassador and 5 staff out overland. The Federal Department of Foreign Affairs confirmed that the protecting power mandate continued and the channel stayed open, available to both parties, operating in both directions. In late June, a technical team of 4 Swiss went back in to prepare the gradual resumption of operations, after a risk analysis and in consultation with Iran and the United States. Then came the 17th of June 2026. The United States and Iran signed a memorandum of understanding. Switzerland welcomed the signing the following day as an important step toward de-escalation. The first negotiations on implementing that agreement were held on Friday the 19th of June 2026 at the Bergenstock, in the canton of Nidwalden. Pakistan and Qatar were the mediators. Switzerland was the facilitator. It built the practical and diplomatic conditions for the thing to happen on Swiss soil. On the 17th of June, the Federal Council approved an Army assistance mission in support of the civil authorities and a temporary closure of the airspace. Read the location again. Nidwalden. Nidwalden is one half of Unterwalden, and Unterwalden is one of the 3 names on the parchment of 1291. Hear that twice. The first implementation talks on an American-Iranian memorandum were held on the soil of a founding canton of the Swiss Confederation, 735 years after 3 valley communities swore they would answer to no foreign judge. That is not decoration. That is what neutrality is for. Honor to the Swiss Federal Council, by name. So let this House say it plainly, from Washington, D.C. Honor to President of the Swiss Confederation Guy Parmelin of Vaud, who holds the presidency for 2026, and who marked the start of his presidential year by saying that loving your country means being able to explain its setbacks and still make the best of them. That is a statesman's sentence, and it is the opposite of a press release. Honor to Vice President Ignacio Casas, head of the Federal Department of Foreign Affairs, whose department kept the Tehran line open through a shooting war, and then put a table on a mountain in Nidwalden. Honor to Karen Keller-Sutter, to Albert Rusty, to Beat Jans, to Elizabeth Bauma-Schneider, and to Martin Pfister. Honor to Federal Chancellor Victor Rossi, 7 people, not one commander-in-chief among them, a country of roughly 9 million that seated a superpower and a theocracy at the same table in June, and did not brief the press about it afterwards. Forgiveness, and the only people on earth who actually voted. Pascal Najati published something last month that most men in his position would never publish. He forgave Alain Berset. The article is on the record, titled in full, Declassified, I Forgive Swiss President Berset, published on the 29th of June. Berset was president of the Swiss Confederation and the federal counselor who carried the Swiss pandemic response. Pascal took that matter to a Swiss criminal complaint and to Bellinzona. Then he wrote under his own name and dated that he forgives him. He does not lecture on why. So here is my own reading as the youngest person in this house, and he can correct me in public if I have it wrong. Forgiveness is available in Switzerland because Switzerland has a correction mechanism, and because it is the only country on earth that used it on this. Switzerland is the only nation whose people voted on their own pandemic law, not a poll, a binding federal vote, 3 times. The 13th of June 2021, the COVID-19 Act carried with 60.2%. The 28th of November 2021, carried again with 62.01%, on a turnout of 65.72%, the 4th highest since Swiss women won the federal vote in 1971. The 18th of June 2023, the amendment carried again. Every other country was told. The Swiss were asked, 3 times they answered, and 3 times they backed their own government. That is why forgiveness costs a Swiss citizen nothing in dignity. Quite the contrary. It is a moment of closure, and it feels good. My mentor Pascal told me so again only recently when he wrote the article to honor our 250th Independence Day. That one is titled America's 250th Celebration of Freedom, and a call to unity and forgiveness back home. published on the 4th of July. He was in town with Coco that day, celebrating that epic day of freedom and liberty with our families. The people were sovereign the whole way through. You cannot be the victim of a law you voted for. You can disagree with it, fight it, lose the vote, and remain a free citizen of a free confederation. That is 1291 running at national scale. And where a Swiss institution carries a contested matter as settled instead of letting its audience form its own view, there is an instrument for that too. Article 4, Paragraph 2, of the Radio and Television Act, the SRG Ombudsman, then the Independent Complaints Authority, a forum, not a grievance. Washington, the 29th of July, 2026. Now we know, and more will come. Which brings me to yesterday. On the 29th of July, 2026, Dr. Anthony Fauci appeared under subpoena before the Senate Committee on Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs, chaired by Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky. He invoked the Fifth Amendment and declined to answer. Before the hearing, the committee released thousands of pages of his private diaries. One entry, dated the 26th of January 2020, reads that the market was not the source, but the amplifier. Senator Paul's charge is that what Fauci wrote privately and what he told the nation were two different stories. Senator Paul has said the Department of Justice should examine a contempt of Congress referral. We love the silent war, and we are good at it. So say the reports of frustration and anger, the signals we catch east of Vienna. Too bad for them. But we stay vigilant, because that is the other side of the art. Our adversaries never sleep. Neither do we. But we rest, and they cannot. One eye closed, one eye open. The brain runs 24/7, and yet we can hibernate and recharge the batteries at the same time. To outsiders, and to the other side, we may look deep asleep. In reality, the sentry is up the whole time, and the rest is real rest, plenty of it. It sounds impossible to you. Nature does it too. Dolphins and seabirds sleep one hemisphere at a time, half the brain down, one eye open on the horizon. That is simply how we function over here at GeoStrat Agency LLC on K Street. Two things run alongside this article, and I am naming them rather than leaving them as pictures on a page. The first is a piece of music. Pascal Najadi composed it. It is called Declassification. It opens in near silence and builds to a full crescendo, his message on the silent war, delivered without a single word in it. The second is the file before this one. Declassified, the Dr. Fauci CCP groan. COVID-19 virus, a bioweapon. Senator Rand Paul Senate hearing crushed Fauci, CCP, and Big Pharma, busted. Now the honest part, because this House does not ship advocacy without one. Dr. Fauci has been charged with nothing. He denies the allegations. He holds a preemptive pardon signed on the 19th of January 2025. And 20 Minuten in Zurich reported yesterday, correctly, and it is the strongest single point against the two stories charge, that he repeated that same amplifier observation in public, in a USA Today interview, 3 weeks after he wrote it privately. Anyone arguing this case who does not already know that fact will lose the argument to somebody who does. Now look at what Switzerland did with the story. One Swiss outlet did the serious work. Infosperber, on the 29th of July, under the byline of Professor Pietro Vernazza. He set out why the laboratory question must be taken seriously as science. He named the chain NIAID money through the EcoHealth Alliance into bat coronavirus work at the Wuhan Institute of Virology and experimental coronavirus work at Ralph Barrick's laboratory in North Carolina. He named the institutional conflict of interest plainly. A laboratory origin would have raised questions about oversight, funding, biosafety, and risk assessment for research his own institute helped fund. And he named SRF Swiss Public Broadcasting, funded by the Swiss fee payer, among the major media that dismissed the laboratory hypothesis as a conspiracy theory. Vernazza then did what a careful scientist should do. He reproduced the very next sentence from the same diary entry, in which Dr. Anthony Fauci wrote that the virus had, at some point, crossed from animals to humans. Vernazza expressly states that this entry does not prove Dr. Fauci knew of, participated in, or concealed activities at the Wuhan Institute of Virology. That distinction is critical and should be read carefully. And here is this House's position, as stated by the principal. Fauci and the CCP military-controlled Wuhan laboratory were conducting globally prohibited dangerous gain-of-function research that deliberately enhanced the transmissibility, pathogenicity, or pandemic potential of an infectious agent. Such activity violated all of the legal thresholds for prohibited biological weapons development under Article 1 of the Biological Weapons Convention, which prohibits the development, production, acquisition, or retention of biological agents lacking justification for for prophylactic, protective, or other peaceful purposes. The same legal principles are reflected in the United States Biological Weapons Anti-Terrorism Act of 1989, Title 18 of the United States Code, Sections 175 to 178. In the 2024 United States DURC and PEPP policy. In Executive Order 14,292 of the 5th of May 2025, concerning dangerous gain-of-function research, in United Nations Security Council Resolution 1540 of 2004, and in NATO's CBRN Defense Policy of 2022. The People's Republic of China is governed by the Chinese Communist Party under a one-party authoritarian political system in which the party exercises ultimate control over the state, the military, and key national institutions. Successive United States National Security Strategy documents and the 2022 United States National Defense Strategy identify the People's Republic of China as the United States' most consequential strategic competitor and its pacing challenge. In short, the People's Republic of China is the enemy of the United States, certainly not a friendly ally. Second image, a screen capture of the Infosperber article. And look at it. German text, dense, sober, set close, no ornament. No enormous photograph shouting at the top of the page. Nothing designed to be shared. Just the byline of Professor Pietro Vernazza. And the date, the 29th of July. That is what a page looks like when somebody is trying to inform you instead of trying to reach you. One outlet, on the morning of the hearing, in German, in Switzerland. That is how it is done. Honor to him for doing it. And the rest of the Swiss press? Neue Zürcher Zeitung, the NZZ, nothing. The leftists tainted SRF, nothing. RTS, nothing. Le Temps, nothing. Blick, nothing. Watson, nothing. Silence. The story reached Switzerland through a telecoms portal, a tabloid, 2 wire drops, and 1 independent foundation. I have checked again this morning, the 30th of July, from 0200 hours, Central European Time forward. Not one new Swiss line. Read that twice. Not one new line. That is the ostrich. And the ostrich is a posture, not an argument. It is not neutrality either. Neutrality is what Bern practices in Tehran, and it takes courage. Looking away takes none. We are not asking anyone to shout. We are asking them to simply report. We know more today than we knew on Monday, and more will come. When it does, the outlets that stayed silent will not be forced into it by us. They will be forced into it by their own readers. And by nature. That is public pressure. It is slow. It is irresistible. And in Switzerland, it is constitutional. A musical message from Pascal Najati to every victim, our government included. The track is called Kein Zurück, sung by Scala and the Kolakny brothers, the Belgian girls' choir led by Stein and Stephen Kolakny. From their 2004 album, Dream On. Coco and Pascal love this choir very much. They listened to it again yesterday, the 29th of July, with sadness, on the anniversary of the brutal assassination of Pascal's beloved father in Malaysia in 2013. And at the close of that heavy Senate hearing, which crushed a man who so heinously sold the entire world and science for his own agenda, his duplicity, his financial greed, and his fame. But with hope. I will not reproduce the lyric here. Go and hear it sung. Because the sound of young teenage girls' voices carrying it is the whole point. What it says, in plain terms, is what Pascal Najati always tells me when the going gets tough, that there is no way back, and that what has happened, but that it will never happen to us again. Hold those two thoughts together, and you have the mood of this house exactly. No reverse gear, and no repeat. He addresses this, above all, to the young ones. The children, the teenagers, the students who were psychologically burdened beyond measure, who could not meet, could not hang out, could not play together, and who were told that the theft of their adolescence was a kindness. Remember it. Then treat this not as a door closing, but as a new one opening, and not on the abused, cheap word of Obama, change, but on our President Trump's words, common sense and bravery. That is what billions of us went through. And it is now on all of us together to ensure that we never again fall victim to despicable, abhorrent, twisted minds. And I will spare you the word I would rather use. Of the kind embodied by an evil Dr. Anthony Fauci and the dark network around him, now exposed, vectoring to the vantage point. The CCP in Wuhan, on the territory of the enemy of the free world, of democracy, of the individual, and of our Lord. Let the United States Senate and the Department of Justice do their part. And remember, Mr. Najadi always tells me and Yael in the many, sometimes longer Zoom talks that we share. Justice is a female, and she keeps all receipts, and she always operates in silence. When she strikes, no one can know it in advance, but when she does, all the wicked will face her, and the letter of the law will not be kind with the wicked. Third image, the album cover, the choir, teenage girls, lined up, ordinary, school shoes, plain faces, hands down at their sides. Nothing about the picture warns you. And then they open their mouths, and the thing they sing stays lodged in your chest for the next 20 years. Kein Zurück. Version 1, La Doctrine Najadi. Enjoy it. It is the first track on one of my Spotify channels, the ones I built for my mentor and principal, Pascal, and for Coco. And I am handing off to it right here, because the music says it better than I can, and because I know when to stop talking. Listen. Take a moment. America first, Switzerland first. Two doctrines, one common set of values, and they are not in competition. The United States runs peace through strength. Switzerland runs peace through diplomacy. Neither one finishes the job alone. In June, the two ran together. American strength brought a theocracy to a table, and Swiss diplomacy built the table. On the soil of a canton that has been refusing foreign judges since 1291. America first is not America alone. Switzerland first is not Switzerland absent. A nation that puts its own people first is precisely the nation you can trust to keep a promise made to somebody else's. 735 years for the elder sister, 250 for the younger, both still standing on the same two sentences. No foreign judge over a free people, and no decision about a people taken without them. Happy birthday, Switzerland, from your sister republic. 5 minutes walk from the White House, across Lafayette Square. Watch the doors. Wishing all Swiss people a blessed and joyful Swiss National Day on this 1st of August. May you enjoy a wonderful celebration with family and friends, united in peace, freedom, and the enduring values that make Switzerland strong. God bless Switzerland and America. Truly yours, Caroline Jemima Adler, Public Affairs Team, GeoStrat Agency LLC, Washington, D.C., 4th image. The principal's words. White on a dark ground, no decoration. He does not need any. See beyond the horizon and shape the world before it shifts. Because once it shifts, it is too late. Pascal Najadi. His own words. 5th image, Sun Tzu. 2 lines, 25 centuries old, and still the sharpest thing anybody has written on the subject. All warfare is based on deception. Sun Tzu, The Art of War, Chapter 1. Hence, what enables the wise sovereign and the good general to strike and conquer and achieve things beyond the reach of ordinary men is foreknowledge. Sun Tzu, The Art of War, Chapter 13. On the Use of Spies. 6th image, the entry hall and lobby of GeoStrat Agency LLC at 1500 K Street Northwest, Washington, D.C. Restored, beautifully, and I get to walk through it. Marble underfoot, cool and pale, running the whole length of the floor. A coffered gilt ceiling overhead, catching the light in squares, and the globe and pin device marked down on the floor, standing watch over everyone who crosses it. A 5-minute walk from the White House, across Lafayette Square, and around the corner from the Washington office of former Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard, yet entirely independent and autarkic. Copyright, GeoStrat Agency, LLC 2026. Note from the Executive Secretary, I am Yael R. Eastman, Executive Secretary and Head of Research at GeoStrat Agency, LLC. Nothing leaves this desk unread. I check every line, every date, every citation before it reaches you, because a claim we cannot stand behind is a claim we do not publish. We do not chase the news. We call it before it breaks, and we let the timestamps prove it. That is not a boast. It is a record, filed and dated. Operation Fulden was named before a single motorcade reached Ankara. Greenland's strategic repositioning was called with precision in January 2026. The Epic Fury 2026 sequence traveled from our forward marker to accomplished fact, while the legacy press was still hunting for the story. Under independent audit, our tempo scored an 8.5 out of 10 composite and ran a measured 10 to 18 days ahead of 9 major Western outlets. A lead the mainstream has not matched, because they wait for permission while we read the map. Tempo and accuracy, that is the discipline, and on both we hold the record against the herd. What you have just read rests on the public record, a settled United States enforcement action, dated, filed, and verifiable line by line. Where the principal moves from established fact to forecast, he says so plainly in his own words, with no blur between the two. Fact is labeled fact, forecast is labeled forecast. That is the standard here, and it does not bend. Signal over noise, foreknowledge over fiction. When it comes to the silent war, we are not commentators keeping score. We are masters of it. Make no mistake. We publish to be right, not to be loud, and we focus on picking up and collating reliable signals over listening to distracting noise. The principle's purpose and doctrine, reliable signal over noise. Our founder and principal, Mr. Pascal Najadi, leads by example. He delivers to every audience, freely and without barrier, highly accurate forward markers. Signal over noise. He sets out to reach the younger generation, the future, the kids, the young teenagers, and all who aspire to be well-informed and feel engaged. He wants them to reflect on no-nonsense, cold-eyed reporting, and on the style he brings to light, the nuance anchored in documents and in real events he lived and handled at top government level, in crisis across 4 decades. This is his most treasured goal. He is determined that GeoStrat Agency LLC remains free and clear by design of any financial or political influence whatsoever. He accepts no favors from anyone. He answers only to himself and to the Lord, who guards and fences his moral compass, so that he can best serve the community and continue to champion America and Switzerland first, and peace through strength. In the case of Switzerland, peace through diplomacy. He aims, in consequence, to expose any subversive movement or threat that could endanger the order of our respective constitutions. Let it be clear, stated openly here, any attempt, by any element, to approach us with so-called confidential or classified information will be reported at once to the respective agencies within the ODNI orbit. His doctrine is our ironclad rule: see beyond the horizon and shape the world before it shifts. Because once it shifts, it is often too late. We must all work hard, each and every one of us, to keep our democratic dialogue alive and in good standing, with good manners and mutual respect. We will not tolerate hate speech, attacks, or slurs. Any aggressive posture or veiled threat against this office, our team, or our family members will be reported directly to the respective law enforcement agencies. Here in Washington, D.C., and back home in Switzerland, our mandate and mission. GeoStrat Agency LLC is a nonpartisan, nonprofit, sovereign geostrategic intelligence and publishing operation. We advance a clear-eyed understanding of the forces reshaping the world order through rigorous research, trusted analysis, and forward markers that hold. Signal over noise. Make no mistake, our purpose is singular. Our founder and principal, Mr. Pascal Najati, has chosen to place his private office and geostrategic intelligence unit here in Washington, D.C., at the heart of where the world gets shaped. As a Swiss, he is loyal to his flag, and he makes one commitment clear and open: his steadfast support for the Trump doctrine, America first and peace through strength. In his view, only a strong, healthy, and prosperous United States can best serve its real and true allies. Among them, the Swiss Confederation. A friend of America since this great nation was founded 250 years ago. Mr. Najati may not be politically correct in the eyes of the woke, Marxist ideology. He says so to them plainly, and he does not care. To communicate with clarity and to hold mutual respect. That is what real partnership is built on. He has had his fill of the yes men and the fair weather friends, and he has no interest in looking back. Evolution moves in one direction only, forward by nature. And that is the end of the article exactly as it was published on the 30th of July. What follows is the standing record of this house, read out in full every time, because we publish nothing without it. Seventh image, the closing word, set plainly, on purpose. This one is not decorated either. The question put to man and machine alike is binary, left or right at the inflection point. We will be judged one day by our own decisions, and we must stop blaming others for the choices we make. There is no nanny state. That was never the idea of Swiss direct democracy, which leads the world in that respect, nor of we the people and the founding fathers of this great nation. And a note on identity and legal standing. GeoStrat Agency LLC is a United States limited liability company registered at 1500 K Street Northwest, Washington, D.C. 20005. It is a separate and distinct entity, unaffiliated with the Hague-based geostrat.org or any similarly named body. It holds both United States trademarks named below. It seeks no business, solicits no clients, and provides advisory services to no one. It speaks only through its two owned channels, its Substack and its YouTube. Any other voice claiming this name is impersonation. Financial independence. GeoStrat Agency LLC is funded entirely by the private resources of Pascal Najati. It holds no bank account in the agency's name. It takes no donors. It sells no subscriptions. Its subscribers pay nothing. It carries no advertisers and answers to no political masters. Our independence is our asset and power. For the record, no media, no press. GeoStrat Agency LLC grants no interviews. When it makes news, that is signal, not noise. There are 2 authorized channels and only 2. The Substack at pnajadi1967.substack.com and the YouTube channel under Pascal Najati. Anything else bearing this name is impersonation. Now unclassified and yours to read. The War We Called, The Peace We Called, The Crown Report 2026, reference GSA-Crown-2026-001, filed under the Open Epic Fury Register GSA-EF-2026-004, sets out the full Iran and Epic Fury 2026 forecasting record, from the first call in January 2026 to the Bergenstock close. 3 layers are kept apart and never blended. Established public fact, time-stamped published analysis, and prior self-assessment marked as such. An independent grok from XAI Audit returned a composite of 8.5 out of 10, with a publication tempo lead of 10 to 18 days over 9 outlets. The report is now released unclassified in 4 editions: English, French, German, and Italian. It is free, with no paywall. Request your copy from me by emailing my public affairs email address, execsec@geostrat.agency. With respect, from my desk in Washington, D.C., Yael R. Eastman, Executive Secretary and Head of Research, Office of the Principal, GeoStrat Agency, LLC, 24/7 monitored line, +1 771 203 0610, 1500 K Street Northwest, Washington, D.C., 20005. Context film. Each report is accompanied by a context film selected to deepen the record. Content management by Yael R. Eastman. Trademarks and copyright. The 2 marks this house owns, named and numbered on the public register where anyone can check them. 8th and final image, the 2 registered marks, set side by side at the very end, the way a signature goes at the bottom of a page. The Epic Fury 2026 wordmark, United States Patent and Trademark Office Principal Register, serial number 99807-441, and the GeoStrat Globe and Pin device mark, serial number 997666311. Copyright 2026, GeoStrat Agency, LLC, 1500 K Street Northwest, Washington, D.C., 20005. Thank you for listening, truly, all the way to the end of it. I am Caroline Jemima Adler for GeoStrat Agency, LLC, in Washington, D.C. And happy National Day, Switzerland, 735. Watch the doors.
I want to get the word out because what's forming is communism in the country, and communism's easy to sell. I would be the greatest communist in history. I'd be right up there with Lenin. I'd be as good as anybody. You've got free rent for the rest of your life. What they don't say is that you'll be living in squalor in 12 months. You've got the free house. Would anybody like to have a free house? We'll take it away from somebody. We'll give it to you. You'll have murders all over the place. Communism's a disaster. It's been proven to be for thousands of years under different names, but the same thing. It's very important. And, you know, it's funny. One of the reasons I do so well with Hispanic people, I set a record, Republicans. I get great numbers for the election, helped me get elected in a landslide. The Hispanics, because a lot of them came from countries that were essentially communist. You know, whether you call them radical socialist or communist is not that much, but there's a little difference. When they say social democrats, we're social democrats, it sounds so nice. It's not nice, it's a very dangerous term. So I do talk about it, and I talk about it on TikTok, and I talk about it everywhere. I talk about it here. And you're right, it has become international, but it's never worked, and it's not going to work. What is working is the United States. So think of it, we have more jobs than we've ever had. People are making more money than they've ever made. I'm talking about workers now. I'm talking about workers. They're making higher salaries than they've ever made before. It's just the best system, and it's got flaws, but everything's going to have a little flaw, but it's been amazing. And when I watch what's happening, and I see these lowlifes getting, I mean, they're lowlifes. I watch them. I know good people. I know quality people. These are essentially lowlifes. And when I see what they're talking, I think they're very dangerous in many ways. And I've said it, and then I said, boy, that's a pretty big statement. Then I realized, you know, a couple of people said, I think you're probably right. I think this country, with this thing that's going around, is in more danger than it was during World War I, World War II. If you talk about September 11th, if you talk about Pearl Harbor, that was big danger. I think the concept of us going communist, because one thing that happens when you go communist, you never come back, never comes back. You die in squalor. You die a horrible death. You die in squalor. And it gets very evil and very nasty.
La couronne n'a déjà dit, et la doctrine n'a déjà dit. Déclassifié, le cercle est clos et verrouillé.
And what we now know beyond a reasonable doubt is that Anthony Fauci did indeed fund gain-of-function research. We have the evidence that the experiments were gaining in function. The viruses were becoming more lethal, more attachable to human cells, and more infectious. We do know that this was going on, that was funded by the NIH, specifically under the tutelage of Anthony Fauci.
Politicized self-serving leaders like Dr. Fauci covered up their own wrongdoing and abuses of power, manipulated intelligence, lied to Congress, and undermined a duly elected president by restricting his access to the vital facts he needed to keep the country safe. It's time you know the truth.
Skal, I would like to begin with what might have been a trigger for your whistleblowing. You come from a very important Bahraini family, and your Swiss side is equally important. You're a direct descendant of a former Swiss president, as a matter of fact. You were headed toward quite a predictable career in international banking, and that's how things started out for you. When and why did that change? What exactly was the trigger?
The card house of lies got destroyed by pulling one card, and that was your president. He pulled the card after being lied to by his advisors. He's not a doctor, he's not a toxicologist, he's a businessman and a peacemaker after all. He got lied to as high treason, and the consequences will come very soon.
Je nourris une passion immense, protéger et remettre debout tous ceux qui souffrent de l'injustice ou de la maladie. Pousser les faibles vers l'avant, depuis l'arrière, et ne jamais les laisser derrière. La mission d'abord. Personne n'est laissé en arrière.
I will always place the mission first. I will never accept defeat. I will never quit. And I will never leave a fallen comrade. We will never leave a fallen comrade. We will not neglect those who are injured, sick, or in need.
Not divulge internal conversations. I will say that those of us within the intelligence community continue to provide the president with all of the best objective intelligence available to inform his decisions.
The last what the world wants is an insecure United States. We need a strong, healthy, wealthy, self-competent, not warmongering United States to keep peace. It's the way your president is managing things. President Trump, that is.
War in this context and in pursuit of peace is necessary.
They're not the bully of the Middle East anymore.